Good afternoon, everyone. Calling this meeting to order. The date is May 16th, 2017. The time is 5:30 p.m. Please, a reminder to please silence your cell phone when we do this. Thank you very much. Brief scheduled rundown of what we do in public school board meetings. We begin with an invocation. Tonight will be led by our youth pastor from the Vine Church, Mr. Eric Dimmick. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Audie Confessor. He is our principal of Chestnut School for Science and Engineering. National Anthem will be performed by our student from Liberty High School, Sean Parkhurst. Mission statement will be read by Principal of Narcoossee Middle School, Mr. Frank Telemko. Translation services are provided by our Multicultural Department, proudly led by Ms. Dalia Medina. So at this time, if we could all rise, and I will invite Mr. Dimmick. Mr. Dimmick? Oh.
Mr. Confessor.
Oh, okay. All right, that happens. You know what? I think as a backup, I have Mr. Jay Wheeler.
Sure.
And he will lead us with a
Perfect.
few
Sure.
wise words. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come together to do the business of the children of this county. We live in a great country where we're allowed to do this, and we're blessed to be able to do. We're blessed for having these wonderful children, to have this terrific staff, and to have this opportunity. We pray in the God's name, in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We pray. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Confessor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bring down the house.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good job. Great job.
Great. Nice job.
You may be seated.
Good evening. Our district mission statement, inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Thank you.
I am not Dalia Medina. But I am Belinda Reyes, and I will be glad to provide translation services for those who need it. Mi nombre es Belinda Reyes y con mucho gusto le proveo servicios de traducción a los que lo necesitan. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. I'll get it right the next time. So, at this time of our meeting, we allow board members that wishes to make a positive comment, to go ahead and do so. We'll start from okay. Mr. Booth? All right.
Okay, I will go. I'll be happy to. First off, this is the last board meeting before our high school graduations next week, and I want to thank all of the teachers, parents, principals, support staff, cafeteria workers, transportation workers, et cetera, for everything that you've done and everything that you do to prepare these amazing students for graduation next week. And we're all going to be proud of these kids, but they didn't do it on their own. It took more than a village. It took a village and a team, and in some instances, a swift kick in the you-know-where. But we're real happy about this, and we're looking forward to it. So I want to say thank you to everybody, because I know a lot of hard work went into a lot of these students. Also, I need to recognize the Celebration Athletic Foundation. Dr. Pace and I attended their annual fundraiser last week, and they raised over $40,000 for our youth on the west side of the county. And over the past 4 years, they've raised over $150,000. So I want to just salute them especially Monica and Clint Searcy, for the good job they do, and thank you for everyone who participated. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor.
Very well. Mr. Booth?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I wanted to start by saying thank you to the board, Dr. Pace. We spent a couple days in Gainesville learning how to become, I think we're a master board already. But we have to wait on the School Board Association to tell us.
We got to wait for the test results.
We do have to wait for the test results.
We did really well, I'll tell you already.
I think we did good. But I really had a good time engaging with you fellas and Dr. Pace and a couple other boards that were there as well, and the ladies from FSBA. It was a good time, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody's engagement. Just to change, actually, and I'll say this first, it is our last meeting before school, so kind of ditto what Jay said. Stay safe. We want to see you back in August and have fun. Enjoy your families. We want to see you back. I wanted to close tonight and talk a little bit about Coach Mack. I mean, many of you know that Coach McMullen passed away. Coach Mack. He was a teacher of mine at St. Cloud High School. I didn't play basketball, as you could probably imagine by looking at my physique. But he was a teacher of mine, a colleague of my father's, I believe, at one time a colleague also of Dr. Pace. So I did have the honor and privilege of hearing him speak at, I guess, maybe his last public appearance besides being at school. He was at the St. Cloud Athletic Hall of Fame banquet. Principal Fancher was there. He spoke for everybody. And I think I said it on Facebook this week, but his passion was evident. I mean, you knew how much he cared about kids and how much he enjoyed being a teacher and a coach, and I think that's really important. And he touched a lot of lives in his time at St. Cloud High School, and it was great. He told the story about he came to St. Cloud High School as a stop. That was it. He was going to come and go somewhere else, and he loved the place and he stayed. So, and we're certainly glad he did. I'll tell one story, and that was in my time at St. Cloud High School. The OJ trial was going on, and the principal had put out across the school, he said, nobody can turn on the TV, no teacher can turn on the TV and watch the OJ verdict. You can't do it. Well, Coach Mack laughed and turned on his radio, and we got to listen to the OJ verdict in high school. So that's the kind of person he was. I mean, he was an independent guy, but a powerful personality and that distinct voice. And he will be missed. Saturday, 2 o'clock at the gym. We're going to honor his life, his commitment, his service to the students and the community of St. Cloud. So rest in peace, Coach Mack. That's it.
Well spoken, Vice Chair. Dr. Pace?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Soto. Did want to recognize and celebrate the great work that all of our school nurses do. For those of you who don't know, our school nurses were recognized as Nurses Appreciation Day on May the 10th. So it's kind of in between our board meetings, but we do appreciate the service that they provide to our students in our schools and quite frankly, often to staff as well when times get tough. Also wanted to thank just everyone who was a part last night of our Top 100 event, Top 100 Scholars. We were able to recognize 18 students who are graduating with both their AA degree and their high school diploma at the same time. as well as celebrate with over 200 of our county students who have been accepted into one of the top 100 colleges and universities in the state. That does not include our military appointments, which I know that we had 5 of those. So very, very proud of students who've been accepted and are going to be attending some really tough, rigorous colleges and universities next year, but we are very, very proud of them. And I also just wanted to say thank you to the number of people who came out last week for our Center for Employee Health celebration and were a part of our Keeping Pace with Wellness 5K walk. It was warm, but we had, somebody just said it was hot. Yes, it was. But we had a lot of success, and we want to encourage everybody to continue with that wellness focus. So important that we take care of our bodies as well as our minds so that we can serve our students to the best of our ability and be happy, productive folks. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. I'll be brief with my comment. So the school year is almost over. I just want to share with you some of my thoughts. The best way to do it is by analogy. At the end of a calendar year, when the clock goes December 31st and it's about maybe 6 p.m., festivity starts. And you go and you turn on the TV and you'll see a recap of the things that happened in the year. Great stories, sad stories, personalities lost, and new people gaining fame. And, you know, as the clock gets near, you know, you start to reminisce. And of course, once the year is over and the New Year's celebration, I kind of feel that way sometimes as we get closer to these graduation dates. I start to think about what's been going on since the August, and, you know, what, you know, the people that join our team, the new hires, the new principals, and, you know, people come in and out, people retire. But then there's things that happen, you know, the random events that we deal with, and, you know, the challenges that just pop out of the, you know, out of the normal course of business. I gotta say that as we close out this year, every year that I've been on the board, it's been one year that's been better. Yes, we've had our difficulties and our challenges, but I'm particularly proud of everyone that contributes, all of our staff, our administration, our board members. I want to specifically send out a message that I'm very, very proud of our teachers, because, you know, day in and day out, you know, with everything that they do in the classroom and all their challenges, the students, the parents, the rules, they got to constantly be hearing about what happens in Tallahassee and the attitudes of our legislature towards public education. And I cannot imagine how disheartening it must be. And it's always there, and it seems so far away and so far removed to have an impact. I share in that frustration. And while there's nothing, I don't feel like I have the influence to cause the change that I wish would happen, I do want to say that I understand, I appreciate the work that you do, I do not take you for granted, and I'm very, very grateful for what you do every day. And we're closing out, when we close out these graduations and I see all these students graduate, I think about what input you had to make that happen, and it is always with that in mind that I congratulate each and every one of them, and I congratulate you as well. Thank you. So that's the end of the positive comments. I hope that was positive.
I think so.
I meant it to be positive. And at this point, appointments and presentations. Yes. The first presentation is going to be a proclamation for Osceola County History Month, which we've been learning a lot about. Mr. Ricky Booth, are you going to present that, or?
No, they're right there. The executive director, Ms. Danita Dempier, is here, and she's going to come and read the proclamation, correct?
Excellent.
What's that?
Do you have the proclamation?
Do we have the proclamation?
Okay.
Hold on, just a second.
Produce a proclamation right
We'll
now.
produce it. If you submitted it, we'll produce it.
Yes, we have the proclamation.
Give me just 1 second.
There you go, Chris.
Look at there.
We got an assistant from,
You got it?
we got an assist from April Jackson.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Jackson. Thank you, teacher.
I'm sorry.
Always.
Sorry, we were unprepared. This is our first time doing the history proclamation here, so we're very excited to be here, and I will read it now. So, Osceola County History Month. Whereas the Osceola County Historical Society publicizes May as Osceola County History Month to bring an increased awareness to the citizens of Osceola County, providing opportunities to promote preservation, appreciation, and recognition of its historical resources, and whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability, and it is relevant for people of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the significance history has made in the shaping of Osceola County, and to remember the contributions of countless citizens to its legacy. And whereas May marks the birth of Osceola County's founding, and during Osceola County History Month, citizens are encouraged to actively participate in preservation and appreciation, helping to preserve the past for the future and ensuring the promise of a better life for generations to come. And whereas the mission of the Osceola County Historical Society is to collect and preserve the county's history and to provide educational, research, and recreational opportunities to foster an understanding and enjoyment of the area's cultural and natural heritage through museum displays, demonstrations, interpretive programs, and special events for residents and visitors. And whereas Osceola County recognizes that the Osceola County Historical Society is the longest standing and most widely recognized historical entity in Osceola County, now therefore be it proclaimed that the School District of Osceola County, Florida, does hereby proclaim May to be known as Osceola County History Month.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, motion to approve this proclamation
Discussion.
by Mr. Booth, second by Mr. Wheeler, discussion by Mr. Booth.
I want to thank you guys for coming out today. You know, I serve on the board, and for those you don't know, I also serve on the board for Danita, although don't tell everybody how many board meetings I've missed.
Oh,
But, but I enjoy, don't say it, but I do enjoy serving on this board. They do a fabulous job. If you haven't been out to the Welcome Center, please go out to West 192 and check it out. They've got some fabulous displays there. The Pioneer Village is open. The wedding chapel, if that's, well, church, is that we're going to, excuse me, church, is opening soon, right?
Yes.
Yep.
June 7th is the ribbon cut.
And the Dine with the Departed event, if you've never been, it's probably the most unique event that we have in Osceola County every year. The Dine, and I know some of you guys have, it's an awesome event, and Rachel does a great job. You guys do a great job putting it on. So when I saw that, as a board member of theirs, that they were doing a proclamation at the city of St. Cloud, the city of Kissimmee, and Osceola County, I said, hey, what about the school board? We just had a dance and song last week. This is May, it's History Month. So thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate it, and congratulations to the Historical Society.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, so we do have a motion to vote upon. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Vote passes 4-0. Next up, our next presentation is going to be presented by Dana Schaefer. It is our 2017 Osceola County Disney Dreamers and Doers Shining Stars. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Since 1984, Walt Disney World Resort has celebrated local students who serve as role models at home, school, and in the community as Disney Dreamer and Doomers as part of an annual recognition program. This year, nearly 375 public and private school students in Osceola, Lake, Orange, Polk, and Seminole counties have been chosen by their school principals as 2017 Disney Dreamers and Doers. Of the nearly 375 students, Disney also has distinguished 15 Dreamers and Doers, that's 3 per each county, as shining stars, representing the exceptional character and kindness from among the group. On June 10th, the Shining Stars and their immediate family members will attend a special event at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. These award-winning students will receive Mickey Mouse statue known as the Mousker, along with a gold medal and other special mementos. So tonight, it is my pleasure to recognize Osceola County's 2017 Disney Dreamers and Doers Shining Stars. Superintendent Pace and Chairman Soto, will you please join us down front to congratulate our winners?
Come down there, Mr. C.
First up, we have Keenan Lewis from Chestnut Elementary School for Science and Engineering, and he's in the 5th grade. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Keenan. In 2nd grade, Keenan decided to inspire his male classmates by joining the dance team. Keenan participated in school performances and at a private event for 500 senior residents in a retirement home. Because of his brave actions, 3 other boys joined the team. One of Keenan's teachers describes him as being a pioneer and a true leader who thinks outside the box. He demonstrates leadership by doing what other children his age are hesitant to do. Way to go, Keenan. All right, for our middle school, we have Michael Yoon, Narcousie Middle School, and he's in 8th grade.
Hey.
Michael's mom unfortunately died of cancer. He and his dad lived in a California neighborhood where gunshots were the norm. Tragically, Michael's father later died in a roofing accident. He was left with a tough choice of going to foster care or moving to Florida with his aunt and uncle. After relocating here, Michael focused on his academics and his community. He greatly improved his grades and volunteers feeding the homeless, sorting baby items, and helping his elderly neighbors with yard work. One of Michael's teachers says he has the ability to motivate students to strive for success and encourages others to be responsible and to respect everyone. He is kind, hardworking, and creative. You are a role model, Michael. Congratulations. And for our high school student, I think she brought a like her whole entire team. It's Trinity Gibbs, Osceola High School. She's in 12th grade. Trinity challenges her cousins to match her grades in core classes and tutors them in areas where they have difficulty. She encourages them to take an interest in math and science and monitors their progress. Many students now have outstanding grades. One of Trinity's teachers says that she has mapped out her academic and career goals. With dual enrollment at Valencia, she is well on her way to reaching her dream to become an anesthesiologist. We wish you much success, Trinity. Congratulations.
We are. Thank you. They are darling. And we want to say thank you to Mr. Jones and Coach Coffey and the whole Osceola Cowboy softball team.
Remarkable, and children can inspire adults. I could tell you that. I feel inspired. The next presentation, Mr. Booth is going to help us with. All right? We're going to recognize a student from St. Cloud High School for perfect. Let me get this straight. Am I reading this K to 12 perfect attendance?
Yes.
Well,
Yes,
that's not entirely correct.
Okay.
It says K through 12, but he has also he attended pre-kindergarten in New Jersey, if I'm correct, Mom, and he had perfect attendance. So he's really had perfect attendance from pre-K through 12th grade.
So, Board, I saw an article. Actually, my wife showed it to me I think it was Town News today, about this young man at St. Cloud High School that had never missed a day of school. Not just in high school, but again, now we go back to pre-K. We've got to amend this because it only says K through 12. So. But I said, hey, if we've got a student like that in our county, that we need to recognize him here at a school board meeting. So that's what we're going to do. We've got a little token here to say, hey, thank you, good luck, well done. And I also briefly got to speak to this young man. We honored him at the St. Cloud Athletics banquet the other night. So he's not only is he a student, he's an athlete. So Mr. Brian, is it Helmer?
Brian Helmer, yes.
Brian Helmer, and come on up.
Well, Mr. Booth, if I may too,
Please, and this is Nate Fancher, principal at St. Cloud High School. He's going to say a few words.
This young man, every morning I'll walk into school and he is actually, he is a student assistant for first period. So no matter what day it is, I'm not there every single day. I have Dr. Reinhardt calls me to meetings, so I can't be at school every single day.
So you're not
right. But my secretary's not there every day. My assistant principal is the head custodian. People aren't there every single day, but every day when I walk into that office, there's this young man sitting there working, going on an errand for someone, but he does it with a smile. He really is a true bulldog. He's actually also received a full 4-year scholarship through ROTC. He'll be attending UCF next year, and hopefully he'll be, commissioned a lieutenant in the Army in 4 years. Right. I think he wants to kind of work behind the scenes in Army intelligence, things along those lines. But we're very, very extremely proud of him.
He'll come to work every day.
Yeah, he'll be there. So, but again, Brian Helmer.
Brian Helmer, everybody. Let's one more round of applause. And your mom's a teacher, right? That's now.
Go ahead.
Congratulations. Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm not even going to say.
Appreciate it. I didn't even come close.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah. You ever make a 6-week grading period?
No, probably not. No. I enjoy taking a day off.
Well done, Mr. Booth. Takes us to the next part of our agenda, appointments and transfers. Dr. Pace.
Yes, sir. Chairman Soto, I am excited tonight to get to bring forward a recommendation for the planning principal of our high school on Boggy Creek Road. He's unable to be with us tonight because he'll be relocating with his family from Oregon with the start date of July 1st, and I am pleased to recommend Mr. David Phelps to take that position.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Thacker. Any discussion, board? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Excited.
Yeah.
For meeting him.
Can't wait to meet him.
So,
Mr. Phelps has tremendous experience as a principal at both the middle and high school level. He's also been a superintendent in a small district, received his bachelor's degree in elementary ed from Idaho State University, has 2 masters, one in curriculum and instruction from the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh, and a second one in educational administration from Lewis and Clark College.
He is
I
aware-
think he'll be a real asset to our team.
He is aware it doesn't snow here, right?
He is. He and his wife have come to spend the last weekend here in the area, tour around, and they're already working with a realtor on a new home.
So this is, so we're sort of like selecting our captain of our enterprise, USS Enterprise.
No, we're not.
Latest,
Dr. Pace
the
is.
biggest, fastest ship in the fleet.
SDOC Enterprise.
SDOC Enterprise, there you go. All right, so we do have a motion
A second.
and second, so let's vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state no. Hearing none, vote passes
Dr.
4-0.
Pace, please let me know when he arrives. I'd like very much to meet him.
Thank you, Board. We'll make sure that that's arranged very quickly as soon as he relocates.
Yes.
It's also my pleasure tonight to invite Rachel Rosenbaum to the podium, please. Right? Rachel Rosenbaum currently serves as the literacy coach at Highlands Elementary School. She's been the teacher at Parton Settlement, literacy coach at Poinciana Academy of Fine Arts, as well as her current position. She has a bachelor's degree in elementary ed from the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh. No, Mr. Phelps. And a master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida. and it's my privilege to recommend her for the assistant principal vacancy for the 2017-18 school year at Central Avenue with an effective date of June 19th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Booth, second by Mr. Wheeler to approve. Board, any discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state no.
Thank
Motion
you very
passes
much.
4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Rachel does have a fan club.
So I was sitting there thinking what I was going to say. Who I have here is my principals past, present, and future.
All right.
So, and then my family at home and in Wisconsin is watching online, so.
All right.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you very much.
Very happy. And finally, board, if you would please, I'd like to invite Mrs. Beth Talimko to the podium. Beth has served the district well as a teacher at Mill Creek Elementary School, Michigan Avenue, and Hickory Tree Elementary. She's also been the literacy coach at St. Cloud Elementary, a district resource teacher, an instructional framework coach. And as you know, we asked her to go to Sunrise as the resource teacher on assignment just a month or so ago. And during that time, she has really earned the respect of the staff and the team, and I think she will be a real asset in assistant principal role there. She received her bachelor's degree in elementary ed from Bloomsburg University and a master's degree in educational leadership from the American College of Education. So it's my pleasure to recommend Beth Talimko as an assistant principal at Sunrise Elementary, effective June 19th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Thacker, second by
Discussion.
Mr. Booth with discussion.
If you're anything like Frank, I don't know if I can vote to approve. No, I'm joking.
Wait, isn't Frank her dad?
I'm the better
Because-
half, yes.
I don't have the pleasure of knowing Mr. Talimko, but I can tell you that Mr. Talimko is an outstanding administrator. We love him out at Narcoossee. The parents love him. Just the other day, I was out there for the Avid Sight team that he got me to be on. I was going to use another term, but I'll be nice. And you know what? He had invited people there for private tours of the school, and so I know. Great family. I know you guys have dedicated yourselves to Osceola County education. Thank you very much.
25 years this year, yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you both.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
board, any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Vote passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good luck.
I just want to say thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. And I've had a lot of people help me, and I have a lot of people here with me tonight. So I have my mentor, Renee Clayton's with me, because she's helped me get this far. And I have my new boss with me, Wendy Honeycutt, my husband, and then my Highlands team, because we have been through a lot together and learned a lot together. So thank you. And there's actually some people I've worked with in the past here, too. So 25 years is a long time, but thank you. Thank you, guys. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Congratulations.
That's all, sir.
All right, so appointment transfer open for public comment. So this is the portion of the meeting where members of the public can go ahead and submit a little yellow form, and they'll get 3 minutes to speak. We have one submitted. I will call your name. Please come up to the podium and just state the name so it could be recorded and your address. You have three minutes to make your speech. Rodney Cotton. Mr. Cotton. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the board, administrators, and guests. My name is Rodney Cotton, spelled C-O-T-T-E-N. My address is 1709 Malin Bay Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32828. I'm here this evening representing Gray Pit, a collaborative of executives, project managers, authors, and business leaders. And we're here because we want to put on an event aimed at our juniors and seniors in the Central Florida area. We realize this generation of digital natives amaze us with their courage and tenacity. At the same time, they face a future that will be so different from that of their parents that even the traditional pathways to success are filled with new uncertainties. Whether their dream is to pursue traditional higher education, master a trade, start their own business, or simply change the world, certain skills remain fundamental. They must learn to be servant leaders, collaborators, and community builders. Gray Pit is fusing our strengths to reach out to young people in the 7-county Central Florida area primarily high school juniors, seniors, and their parents at our first national event called Gray Pit Live, Students Ignite Your Life. And LIFE is an acronym for Leadership, Innovation, Focus, and Empowerment on Tuesday, October 17th, 2017, from 9 to 12 noon in the Orlando Kissimmee area. During this half-day event, speakers will bring to the audience a strong mix of case studies, personal experience, and motivation for all channels of our audience. Our speakers can guide young people to think about how actions they take now can lead to their future plans. Whether they pursue higher education immediately following high school, enroll in specific trade or technology training, grooming their leadership and community service skills will assist in is vital to a productive and rewarding future. We are seeking support from local and national corporations such as EA, Nike, Walmart, Disney, and Siemens, along with partnerships with Florida-based colleges and universities to promote and execute this event. My goal today is just to simply make initial contact with the Osceola County School Board, as I will be doing with other county school boards in the area, to present this event and seek guidance on promoting the event through your schools, your high schools, and ultimately with the goal of designating this event as a field trip in the fall. I would just like to have the opportunity to hopefully be introduced or connected with a contact person that can help me navigate the processes to make this happen, especially if you all have a member of the Central Florida Public School Board Coalition. I would appreciate introducing myself to that person as well. So thank you very much for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm the representative on the Central Florida School Board Coalition.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler, thank you very much, sir. I will give you my card and I'll be in touch.
You bet.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to give a card with me, I'll have someone from staff contact you.
Fantastic. Thank
Okay.
you, Mary. Thank you.
Right. So that's all we have for public comment. Agenda modifications board?
None.
None. Dr. Pace? Frank? Anything?
Move for approval of the consent agenda and the agenda.
All right. Motion
Second.
to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Wheeler. With no discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state no. Vote passes to approve the consent agenda 4-0. Information. We have an update on school uniform policy. Always a fun topic. Tom Phelps will be giving us this information. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, school board members and superintendent. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a brief update on our school uniform policy. I guess we probably ought to start off with just a brief history lesson about the school uniform policy. I know that many of you probably had children in the school system when we adopted it. I know for myself, I was taken off my daughter's Christmas list when we initially started the uniform policy.
Only your daughter? My daughter and all of her friends took me off.
And you know, it's interesting though, after having conversations and they got into wearing the uniform, they realized that it really wasn't that bad. You know, it actually made life a lot easier for them in the morning, and you know, I know it made my life a whole lot easier because I didn't have the challenges of having to police what they were wearing in the morning. So I know initially, you know, the uniform policy was something that was a little bit controversial. But I believe over time we've established that it was the positive thing to do and the right thing to do for our district. But if we kind of go back into time here and look, back in 2007, the school board at the time had asked the district leadership team to do some research and see if any other districts had put in a uniform policy into place. Kind of what was the feel of the community and the administration at the schools as to you know, whether or not we felt a uniform policy was appropriate for our student body and our community. School climate surveys were done to see, and we had some focus groups to see if there was even you know, a feel out there that we wanted to look at a uniform policy, and if so, would we do that in elementary, would we do it in elementary and middle, or would we just do it K-12? The results showed a majority response as being favorable. for elementary, middle, and high school. Obviously, as we looked at elementary, the majority really were on board with it. The enthusiasm for the uniform policy kind of dwindled as we went into the high school responses, but yet it was still favorable. Several board workshops were held for parents, students in the community to provide some input. I do remember that there was quite a bit of input, both in support and also with some concerns as to whether or not we should be implementing a uniform policy in our district. When the district and the school board took all of that into consideration on April 15, 2008, the school board adopted the uniform policy K-12 for all of our students, and that's when we hit the ground running to put out the information to all of our community members, all of the students, and also the parents, so that they knew what to expect whenever they arrived at school on the first day in August of 2008. I will say, speaking as a school administrator at the time, and I know Mr. Allen and I have spoken about it as well, we were very concerned about what we were going to expect on the first day of school as far as compliance. I mean, we knew that students would do their best to, and parents would do their best to get their child appropriately dressed and get to school, but we were really concerned about kind of what was that going to look like. I know from my perspective, it was a very nice day. It was one of the best first days of school that I've had. It was really a pleasure to see kids coming to school with a uniform look. And for the most part, students complied, and there really was a minimal pushback from parents as far as complying with the requests. And I think Mr. Allen had a similar experience at his school at the time. Comments and stuff as we kind of looked through. And these were initial comments that we had from administrators and from parents and from students. And as we continue to kind of talk with administrators and again parents and students, we hear similar themes here. We get that from the administrators that it provides a uniform look. It's a standard look for our student body. Easy to identify students, improve student behavior, which we'll be looking at a little bit of some student data from the time when we started the uniform policy. More orderly campus, less focus on fashion. I always like to tell a story about the orderly campus. We had an elementary administrator who'd been an administrator for a very long time, and he allowed one day for the students to wear what they wanted to for picture day. And he said, we've had Pictures Day for dozens of times. It's been very smooth, no issues. He said, but for this particular day, for whatever reason, the kids were just unmanageable. And this was a very well-managed school, again, a very seasoned administrator. And he called me up and told me, he said, the only thing I could figure out was that I didn't have him in a uniform. So he vowed to never deviate from the uniform again. And as far as I know, he had successful school days beyond that, and he has since retired. So gang clothing and reducing or eliminated, if we have a standard uniform, we tend to see less of that gang activity and the colors at a school. Elementary, middle, and high school all indicate a desire to continue the policy, and again, I think we've had some pretty good success with it since we put it into place. For parents, making it easier in the morning, get less struggles to figure out what to wear, and actually ended up being cheaper. I know that was one of the concerns that parents had, was that it was going to be more expensive to do a uniform, and then when it was all done, they realized that it was a lot easier to just buy a couple of tops and bottoms and kind of cycle them out. For students, and this was one that I was most interested in, was that they didn't really want it at first, but it was something that wasn't as bad. They did have the ability to personalize their dress, so it wasn't like we were requiring everyone to wear the same thing across the board. There was the ability for them to, I guess, accessorize. Since I have daughters at home, I know that phrase. So. Makes it easy to figure out what to wear in the morning, so it's less frustrating for them as well. And again, I continue to hear these things as I talk to students. I mentioned discipline totals. Since we started the uniform policy back in 2008, we had set some particular discipline infractions that we were going to be monitoring, and over the course of the 9 years that we've had the uniform policy, we've taken into account and kind of tracked the information. What you see here is a total of all of the different disciplinary actions that we have tracked. The things that we tracked since the beginning were classroom disruptions, disruptions on campus, disruptive behavior, dress code violations, fighting, and gang-related activity. And what you see on the top in the bar chart is the number of incidents that have occurred in those particular categories since 2008. So I don't want you to think that there's 41,000 incidents of disruptive behavior in a year. That's a 9-year total, and you can see those bar graphs as you go down. The bottom of the slide shows that progression over time. And you can see initially in 2008, which was the year before we started the uniform policy, 2009 would be the year that we completed it. You'll see a slight jump in the numbers, and then you'll see a gradual decrease over time as far as overall totals. We attribute the jump really actually in dress code violations because we were closely monitoring dress code. So we were, although initially doing, I guess, kind of low-key type of compliance type of stuff with dress code. Once we had gone through that and there were still some concerns with complying with the dress code, that's when they would be getting a consequence. So we would see a slight increase on that first year, but over time you'll see that schools have done a very good job about tracking and monitoring and seeing a reduction. If we look at each one individually, you'll see classroom disruptions as we focus in on that one particularly. And we're going to look down at the very bottom, and again, you'll see a progression over time, which is a reduction in classroom disruptions. Moving on to major disruptions on campus. These would be the things that caused a significant disruption on campus, such as a fight, a disruption on campus that called a whole bunch of staff members to a particular area, cafeteria types of things. If there's a fight in the cafeteria where we might have had to stop the activity, we had to move kids out of the cafeteria. That's the type of thing that would be considered a major disruption. Again, you can see that one's kind of up and down, but for the most part, you see a decrease over time. Disruptive behavior, which occurs on campus and outside of the classroom. Again, same trend. You see a slight increase mid-year through our uniform policy implementation, and then you can see a pretty dramatic decrease over the last several years. Dress code violations, we continue to monitor dress code over the year, so we don't just ignore, and there are times when we do have to consequence for dress code. So you'll see again where we can see a significant decrease over time with dress code. Fighting, one of the things that we really focused in on when we began the dress code and the dress policy was hopefully a reduction in classroom disruptions and also fighting on campus. And I think the data will show that we've had an impact, and that's really one of the only things that we can attribute to the decrease is that we had a uniform policy. Gang-related activity, and this would be showing colors, would be some type of paraphernalia that they've got on them. Again, we see a significant reduction there, and we really don't have a huge issue with gang-related activity, but we do continue to monitor it.
Before you go any further, I just want to point out, go back to that last slide.
Gang-related?
I've been on the board a long time. But gang activity back in the mid-2000s, when we were contemplating this, 2004, 5, 6, 7, et cetera, while it's negligible on this, it was doubling every year. And that was really the motivator. I mean, at the time, the school board attorney let us know that the only defensible position for something relative to school dress was safety and security. And we didn't feel our schools were unsafe, but we saw this gang activity it was doubling every year. And to most of us on the board, we live in a different world. We don't understand how gangs work and live, et cetera. We had many presentations, and we learned clothing was integral to gang culture. And, you know, if you take the uniform out, it's kind of like, and when you're saying gang activity, to Mr. Phelps' point, there were fights going on campus, but what they were doing is they were recruiting kids to be in gangs. And it's similar, think of it from the perspective, if you're a military recruiter, would a Navy or Marine recruiter have more successful recruiting, new sailors, new Marines in uniform or out of uniform? It was the same thing. It made it much more difficult for gangs to entice young people to become involved with them who were impressionable, wanted to belong to something. And it's really, in my opinion, while you're going through this time, and it doesn't, it's difficult to really quantify, this significantly changed the cultures in our high schools. Significantly, like night and day, in my opinion. So I just want to share from a guy who was on the board at that time the perspective and the wheres and whys. Mr. Phelps, please.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Sure.
The last slide probably is one of the most important, which shows the changes that we had over time. Obviously there was a lot that went into creating the uniform policy. It wasn't just one or two people looking at the language and creating the policy. That we brought in a lot of administrators, and there were students and parents involved in it. So the first year that we implemented, we really made no changes to it. We really wanted to play it out. We wanted to see if everything worked well, and we really had minimal suggestions from our administrators as to making any changes. But you'll see over time that we have made some modifications, some upgrades, if you will, to the policy. In 2010, we made some changes to the outer garment language, that the outer garment must be removed or unzipped or left open while inside a building. And really what that one was for was because of concerns with students actually wearing the uniform underneath. They would put on a hoodie or something, but they really weren't in compliance with the uniform. We did have concerns with longer overcoats and trench coat types of outer garments, so we required that those be removed upon entry to the school. And initially we had the bottoms had to be a dark denim, and we realized that really was not a reasonable request. Especially, you may be able to buy them dark to begin with, but over time denim's going to lighten up. So we made it to a traditional blue jean color to be acceptable. In 2011, we changed some information and some language in reference to hair color and style. This came primarily from, as far as the style, came from our elementary principals, because they had students who, a second grader who had a real short mohawk. It was not disruptive. It was kind of cool looking, but by the letter of the language we had previously, that would have been a violation. So we wanted to lighten up a little bit in that area and allow some flexibility for the principals. And hair color, we changed that to just so that it would be more of an extreme or distracting type of hair color, again, giving the principals some flexibility there. We had a good run between 2012 and 2014 where we didn't have any changes. 2015, we addressed piercings to include spikes and gauges and oversized piercing hardware that were deemed inappropriate. Hair color, again, was readdressed, and we talked more about unnatural colors, because apparently on the box of color, it says that it's a natural color, but we know it's not, because bright blue really isn't a natural color, but it still says that it's natural, so we had to take some modifications there because the kids were smart. They knew to bring the box in. Added black denim and as a bottom color choice. And then in 2016, which I believe many of you were aware of because you voted to make the modification, was the footwear to allow some boots as far as an option. And then also we changed the length of a skirt or a skirt to mid-thigh as opposed to fingertip length. So that's all the changes that we've had. We don't have any committee this year to readdress anything. All of the changes that we need are already there. We haven't had any input from administrators that we feel like we need to pull the committee together. So it's really been more of a every year type of activity when we pull the group together. So I'm willing to answer any questions if you got any. I think Mr. Thacker.
Yeah, I just, this looks really good. I appreciate
Thank you.
getting all that pulled together. My question I have is, as I go from school to school, pretty big differences going on out there.
There is.
And I get giving principals the option to run their own school and all that, but if we indeed believe this is good for lots of various reasons, and I don't want to take away the autonomy, but it seems like you go to some schools, you can walk in and go, clearly there's a dress code here, and you can walk into another one and you go, clearly there is no dress code, or it doesn't smack you in the face. And I don't know, do we care, or do we?
We continue to address the need for consistency across our schools with our principals while allowing for some latitude, but within the basic code of dress code. And some principals have found that having a uniform-free day as an incentive, for example, for perfect attendance during testing,
Great.
or a PBIS incentive, and certainly I think the board, I hope the board would agree that we've typically supported that, but we will again work on our communication plan this summer to emphasize to our parents and our community, as well as to our principals and our teachers and our staff, about the fact that this is important, and more importantly, why. I know that the board had asked Tom to put together this information to kind of go through historically where we were, but I think when you look at the data, we have clear justification for asking and insisting that our schools tighten up and respect the dress code policy that the board has established.
And our family too had kids in school, and you would have thought it was the end of the world when August rolled around and they had to put on a white polo and blue shorts. But everybody survived. It took about 2 days for that became a non-issue.
Yeah, and it was, for years, we put it out every year at, end of the year, throughout summer, to promote it, and really it's just become part of Osceola. The uniform is an expectation. We do obviously send out reminders, but it's not something that we have to, broadcast it everywhere during the summertime and before school starts. It's just part of who we are.
Oh, okay. Mr. Booth.
I just wanted to make almost the same comments as Mr. Thacker. As you know, that every time we've discussed dress code, I've made almost the same comment that Mr. Thacker has. If we're going to have a dress code, how do we enforce it consistently across the district? Because I've got kids in 2 different schools and had parents working in other schools and other family members in other schools, and I can tell you, I've had the same experiences as Mr. Thacker has. You go to one school, I'll just use Neptune as example. I won't say the words that they used to call them what they called them, but if it said it in the book, they did it.
Yes.
Other schools that I won't mention, they could really care less, as long as there wasn't an issue. So, I think it's that balance of autonomy and a leadership at a school and kind of what the problems are and what they need to address. But I do think, I'm going to just say we probably need to tighten up a little bit on our consistency. That would be my opinion.
And I definitely agree. We have, I think we start off strong, and then it kind of loses its momentum.
And you guys have
every
done a
year.
great job. I want to commend you for this and the changes you've made and addressing this each time. The committee recommendations, as long as I've been on the board, sorry, Mr. Soto, have been outstanding. And I want to commend you for putting those teams together and doing that. I think you guys have done a fine job. I think we've got a great dress code policy. Just consistency is what concerns me.
It's good to see it evolves.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that my daughters went to that same school that you referenced, and I received a few phone calls myself.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll admit it.
Just a couple things. First off, when we first started this, there's one principal who really, really was the gold standard with this, and he was the principal at Osceola High School at the time, Mr. Pricer, who's coming back, and when he was at Liberty, I would encourage you, go out there when he's there in the morning, kids are coming to school. He does it in a firm leadership way. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he's good with it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time since he was at school with school uniforms, but he really was the gold standard when he was at Osceola High School. But another aside was, I was involved with this from the start, and in this conversation started in 2007 when I was at a basketball tournament with then aspiring county commissioner Fred Hawkins, so we can meet some people. And Harmony High School was playing, and I went over and talked to the principal at halftime of the game, who chewed me out about school uniforms, like you can't believe, up and down, up and down. And then this same principal ended up becoming a deputy superintendent in another county, and the first day of school in this other county, I got a phone call. Mr. Wheeler, yeah? Deborah Pace, is everything okay, Dr. Pace? Yeah, everything's okay. Well, what can I do? You know, it's incredible. I'm going around schools right now without school uniforms compared to what we had. It's like night and day. I wish we had school uniforms here, and that was the first day of school you had in your first August starting in Brevard County. I'll never forget that call. And if you weren't sitting up here, I wouldn't be telling that story. Because at that Harmony basketball game, she chewed me out like you can't even begin to believe. And Dr. Pace and I have a very good relationship. But it was, and I remember Dr. Reinhardt at Celebration High School, she was telling me that, I've been around a long time. She let kids one day buy, for $1 or $2, you let kids dress however you want. And it changed the entire culture of the school, and you said you would never do it again. And I remember you were telling that we brought somebody, I think, from Flagler County at the time, or Putnam County came out, and you were telling that to them. I remember that. So school uniforms here, I think that there needs to be some tightening up. But again, the primary motivation at the time was because of gang activity. But I think, on top of that, we've seen increases in attendance because of it, increases in academic scores, which you can't attribute to school uniforms, but it's certainly a contributing factor as it changes the culture of your schools. And the real place that it was needed was at high schools. And everybody said, oh, K-12, K-8's great. If you didn't do high schools, there's no point in doing it, because I remember tutoring, mentoring at Osceola High School, and Dr. Paradiso was there then, and a girl came into the media center. She had on a midriff shirt with a tattoo from her belly button going out of a spider web, and I just like, are you kidding me? And he was like, oh, it doesn't affect her education. I said, but it affects every guy's on campus's education. So you don't see students going to school anymore looking like they're going to a nightclub. They're going to school looking like students now, and that's great. So I appreciate the update, and I appreciate the indulgence for it, but again, I've been around a long time.
You've been indulged.
No, that's, thank you, Mr. Weeder, very insightful. Any other comments from the board or superintendent?
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the presentation, I appreciate it. Okay, next presentation is going to be a legislative update. We have Mr. Mike Horner here that's going to give us all the good news that we've been waiting to hear. All of this.
I must have given you the wrong version of this report if you think it's all good news.
Sorry, I read the wrong thing. Go on.
No, I'm just teasing. So I've spoken with most of you offline. I could give the long version of session because it was probably the strangest session in the 28 years I've been doing this, so I will give the short version. If you want any context or background, you can contact me later or ask. So it was the best of times and worst of times for us this session. The good news is the two goals this board had set for your lobby team were, one, to get some language for high-growth schools and some extra dollars to fund that pot. We were able to get some really quality high-growth language put in that the Senate staff helped draft. Ms. Graber was a big assist in that, and so we got better language than we were pushing really in previous years. We were really fortunate they agreed to put that in the conforming bill, which is normally a really safe place to be. We'll talk about that in a second. We also had $3 million that was put in the budget to help fund that high growth. So that's the good news. The other priority that this board set was some relief for testing, and that also made it into, unfortunately, a conforming bill as opposed to legislation, but that did go through. So that's the good news. The bad news is, and I won't go through the blow by blow, you've read it in the paper, a lot of controversial education policy was placed in the last pass of conference in a conforming bill, now notoriously 7069. And unfortunately, that's also where our high growth language is. It also has some language in there that would be detrimental to Osceola School District in that we would then share our capital dollars with charter schools, which would take a big bite for us because we've been so welcoming to charter schools, and I could go through the bill if you choose. The bill passed the Senate by one vote, so the governor would be pretty comfortable in assuming if he vetoes that bill that his veto would be upheld. And multiple groups have come out encouraging the governor to veto it. Numerous legislators, I think just today, the Superintendent Association just came out in support of that. So
did FSBA.
the conventional wisdom is that that bill will wind up being vetoed. Then you have the budget. The governor early on rattled the saber to veto the entire budget. I think the strategy that's being looked at now, at least via the rumor mill, is to veto the FEFP. If he does that, then he sends them back into special session, because clearly you're not going to operate the state with a $25 billion or whatever FEFP. It's a big chunk. If you take FEFP, veto the $400 million that was in 7069, that way you get to come back and kind of rework education policy from top to bottom. It'll be interesting. The House has some very distinct ideas of where they want to go. The Senate has, and the governor have potentially some different ideas, but it would be good for us were that to take place, because frankly, we want them to come back. I think 7069, where our high growth language is located, if it gets vetoed, that would be unfortunate. If they have to come back and they rework that, then we have an opportunity to get our policy put back in. Just other comments. Senator LaRosa has been outstanding. He's been a huge help. Representative LaRosa has been he just promoted him. Representative LaRosa has been fantastic in helping us get our language and dollars through the House, and that's a big deal. All of our items really originated out of the Senate. Senator Latvala has been a huge assist there. I can tell you that Senator Torres has put our language in as a what's called the form in the Senate, and I believe Senator Torres is committed to vote per the School Board Association, as you mentioned, and the Superintendent Association, in terms of supporting. He voted against 7069 and would help uphold the governor's veto. That's the very quick version of this. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Tom. So this is what we call a Pyrrhic victory. In other words, you got a lot of work in, but all of a sudden it was all for naught if the governor votes to pass this conforming bill because of the other things that were put in the last minute.
Yeah, I think I would characterize, I think that I probably had that feeling after we came out of conference. I would say now we're more in overtime as opposed to the game's over and we had a Pyrrhic victory. I think the governor, if he winds up following through on vetoing 7069 and line item vetoing FEFP, and they come back, I think we've got a real opportunity to get our language in.
What does it look like if this does not get a veto?
If it doesn't get a veto, then you're going to have some significant changes for the entire state when it comes to education. The profound ones for our district, and Dr. Pace could probably elaborate better than I, would be one, losing, is it about $4 million from charter school funding? Am I in the ballpark? Because the way it's structured, with approximately 20% of our students going to charter school, then 20% of our capital would be siphoned away. So that would be the biggest financial hit. It would change the way the district can spend Title I money, which would be disruptive. These are, I don't want to characterize a lot of these controversial things good and bad, because frankly, this board hasn't taken a position on a lot of those. I think I can feel comfortable that you don't want to give away your charter money, but I think you would need to have your own discussion on a lot of these policy issues. So if it passes, I think there's a reason why it was so close in the Senate. The chairman of the Education Appropriations Committee, Senator Simmons, who's been very friendly to this district, voted against the conforming bill, and he had to present it, which is almost unheard of. He presented the bill, then he spoke against it and voted against it. So it's a controversial bill. If others were here, they could really make a great case on why they like it, and others could make a case against. For us, I would argue that the good news is we may have an opportunity to have a victory if this is vetoed, if they clean up the bill. The way that the Senate has really characterized this bill, and I'll use Senator Simmons' words, is the bill's not finished. this, if you were following the drama around getting the budget out this year, a deal was struck between the Senate and the House that these would be the elements to get us forward to a bill. One of the things they put in there, and we didn't find out till late in conference, nobody except for those in the room, that they would put all of this education policy into a conforming bill. Typically, conforming bills are not loaded up with policy.
This was in the name of transparency, right?
I'm not, right. So I don't think they did it in the name of transparency, but they did it. And so it's unfortunate because I don't think the bill was fully cooked. And as Senator Simmons and others in the Senate characterized it as, it wasn't finished. If they go back and have a chance to finish it, we may get it right. And I think we would be working hard. Clearly, a top priority for this district would be that there would be flexibility when it comes to the charter school capital funding, that we don't have to give those dollars away. So but we're going to get it, hopefully, another bite at the apple. But if it passes, that would not be good for the school district. If 769, financially, we would trade a one-time potential $3 million for a recurring $3 or $4 million loss, which is clearly not something you want to do.
Something good has to come out of it. I mean, just theoretically, as to why such a bill would be included in such a manner, to put us in this precipice. This is basically what we're waiting for, is that by his good graces, the governor will veto this, which we don't know whether he will or not.
We do not.
So impart us with some of your insights at it. So what good could come out of this for public education?
Well, there's a lot of good things. So I don't want to sit here and bash 76. We encouraged our senator to vote against it. The bill's not done. There are a lot of good things in 7069. There's some testing reform that's positive. There's things that we like, but to use the phrase of the Miami-Dade superintendent, it's you have to drink a quart of vinegar for 2 teaspoons of honey, or however that got used a lot on the Senate floor. So it's got good and bad, and we'll soon find out if we get another bite at the apple. If he doesn't veto it, we'll go back next year and try and clean it up and make it better for Osceola County. And we would go look for, we've been advancing the concept. I think overall it'd be best if they did not force districts to share their capital dollars. But at a minimum, the concept we've advanced is districts that have been welcoming to charters should have some flexibility. So if you're
being punished the most,
exactly, don't punish you for your good deeds, and so you get some unintended consequences in it. So we're working towards that, but this is high level stuff. This is basically president, speaker, governor level discussions.
All right, Mr. Thacker, you had your light on?
Don't say anything nice. Don't say anything nice. Just keep my mouth shut.
Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah. I guess, Mike, the only question I've got right now from today, we're not at the finish line yet. So tell me when will, and what do you, where's that finish line? And that's the first question.
Well, we're in very uncharted territory.
Right,
so
I get that.
Typically, the legislature will hold on to the budget and these conforming bills for a couple weeks, and they'll send them over piece by piece. It has been discussed that the strategy would be for the House to hold on to those bills as long as possible to pressure the governor, because they'd be so close to the fiscal year. That strategy may well be backfiring in that, as opposed to, as time going on, support building for 7069, it appears that it's eroding. This governor is also in the past has not been afraid to step out and give his veto message even before he receives it. And he could very well tell the legislature, I know you haven't sent me these bills yet, but per the Constitution, the governor has to act on a bill 2 weeks after he receives it, but the legislature can hold on to the bill before they send it. So that
Right.
so we're in that holding mode right now. But he could say, just so you guys know, this is exactly what I'm going to do. So you might as well, let's set a date for you to get back to work. So there's not and something that folks have been really kicking around right now is what happens if you don't have a budget, or if FEFP or any of these elements are in limbo come the new fiscal year. Can the governor basically govern by executive order and fill that gap? So it's some unusual constitutional territory we're in. So normally I could really answer, this is when it's going to be done. This is a very different year than we've seen
And
ever.
so
I would think by the end of,
But we're talking about
end of next month.
We're talking about item. There's a number of different quote veto actions. There's also a line item veto. Also, that we don't. And what's been his history with line item vetoes?
This governor's been pretty aggressive, and that's what the interesting idea that is being kicked around is to line item veto FEFP. And maybe I didn't explain that very well. Before he was talking about vetoing the whole budget. But if he does that, then he would give up his ability to line item veto. The budget passed overwhelmingly out of both chambers, and practically his ability to see his veto sustained would be in challenge. However, if he goes through line item vetoes, things like our $3 million, whatever other things may be in the budget, our sensor project, lots of good things we like, he could go and veto. He could also, what the strategy that's being rumored is that he will veto FEFP, which then forces the legislature's hand. They have to come back and readdress 7069 and FEFP. The House can't, if he just vetoed 7069, the House say, fine, we wash our hands of that $400 million that would have gone to teachers, which is part of 7069. If he vetoes FEFP along with it, he essentially forces them to come back and readdress.
What's your best sense of what's going to happen?
That's what I expect. But it's crazy days, so I'm not putting my name to anything.
Another amount of line item vetoes.
Yeah, I would expect a lot of line item vetoes, and one of those we've got hanging out there that's important to Osceola is obviously our $3 million for high growth and funding for
So what's our
sensor.
best strategy to insulate us from that?
We've had communications with the governor's office. I know that your attorney has some excellent contacts and has been working those. I've been in contact with a couple of senators that have been very close with the governor through this process, and at least one of them has committed that he will put our project on the please don't veto list. But this year the governor is so miffed, he may not care and could just veto almost anything he can.
All right,
That's up in the air.
Comments by Mr. Thacker?
Just a question, I know I should know the answer to this, but he can go through at 7069 and line item veto and whack it apart, or it has to be the whole?
He can't, and because he has to veto the whole thing. He can't line item a bill, and so it's all or nothing, and so he can't. So if
Conforming bill, not the
on
budget.
on the budget he can line item. On the conforming bill, it's all or nothing. Right.
That's what I couldn't remember.
All right, and Mr. Booth?
And maybe Sarah can answer this question better. I've seen some proponents of the bill say one thing and some opponents of the bill say another thing. $27 and reduction per student FTE.
Increase per student.
I thought it was a reduction.
That's the reduction in the base student allocation.
Base student allocation, 27
that's in the FEFP
increase.
budget.
And that's what we're working with. Because I see some people saying that is not there. That's a myth. People are lying to you when they say that.
No.
But the way I read it and the way that you've expressed it to me, I know in your email, is that there is a $27 reduction in base student allocation.
That's correct.
And that is correct.
That's correct. And that affects every district the same.
Okay.
$540 a classroom.
Yeah, that's a lot of money per classroom. Yep.
Dr. Pace, anything? Mike, Mr. Horner, thank you very much for your.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys in the loop as it moves on, and Dr. Pace and I communicate. Unfortunately for her, she has to talk to me almost daily as we work through this, but we'll try and get some more good.
Thank you for all your work. We appreciate it, Mr. Horner. Thank you.
All right. Our next presentation is an update on the Center for Employee Health. Yeah, Mr. Ken DeBoard, you're up. And good afternoon, sir.
Somebody forgot their cell phone.
Mike?
Is it Mike?
Mike, are you out there?
Is this your cell phone?
Hear you.
Oh, yeah, I don't bring that. It's ringing. Good evening. I just had a couple of things I wanted to update you on. The presentation or the information that's in your packet is what you've seen. The bar graph that you see, I was not able to get the version of, or the Excel version before the information was due to for the packet. So I just wanted to make you aware of the calculation that we do on these quarterly basis or the monthly basis. gives you the information about the cost that's been avoided. We're now up to $678,000 that has been avoided by the employees that have been able to use the Center for Employee Health. So I wanted to give you that information, and I'll get copies of this to Tanya, and then she can distribute those to you all as well. The other thing was one of the other pieces that is in the packet. Just wanted to bring the first page that says performance April 25th, 2016 to March 31st, 2017. Just wanted to bring where it lists patient volumes, May, August, May to March 2017. Gives you that population. We have seen in the center 47% of our total employee population. So we thought that was a great number also to share with you and bring to your attention this evening. So that number does continue to grow, so we're really excited about that as well. So unless anybody had any other questions, those were the couple things I just wanted to bring to your attention.
Board, any discussion? All right. Thank you, Mr. DeBoer.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next information item is an investment performance review for the quarter ending March 31st, 2017. Mr. Richard Pengelly from PFM. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
It's about 7.
So set up here.
My night doesn't start till 10.
I want to thank you all for having me here to present the first quarter investment performance to you. I want to start by talking a little bit about the things that we've been focusing on over the past year. It's really 3 things. One, the current administration and the impact of their policies. The Federal Reserve and what they're doing with interest rates, and of course the underlying economy and how that's driving the other 2 things. So I'll focus on 2 of those things. The economy has generally been averaging about 2% growth per year since the recession. Currently, the projection is that we're going to be in that range for the next year or 2, around 2 to 2.5%, based on the consensus view of different economists. And it's sort of important to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because that is the picture that the Fed has been looking at and using for its decisions to increase interest rates. In March of this year, they made their 3rd rate increase of about 0.25% since the recession. They're projecting that they're going to raise interest rates up to another 0.5% through the end of 2017, and then another 0.75% in 2018. From where we are today, that would translate into about 1.25% higher short-term rates, and that has a direct impact on the school district's portfolio. The majority of your funds are invested short-term and are directly impacted by the Fed's moves. So we spend a lot of time thinking about the Fed and looking at what they're doing. The other thing that's going on with the Fed this year is that they're going to be unwinding or reducing their balance sheet. That will have some impact on the investments that they hold on their balance sheet. During the crisis, they enacted a number of different stimulus programs which expanded their balance sheet from a little under $1 trillion to $4.5 trillion. Since 2013, they've maintained that size, and now they've indicated that they're going to start unwinding, and that will have some impacts which we'll be monitoring throughout the year. Over the quarter, pretty much all sectors performed well. Corporates in particular, which was one of the newer sectors that you all added to your portfolio during the last policy change, performed very well for the quarter. Jumping into your report, the school district's portfolio continues to be well diversified. It's largely invested in U.S. government securities, so that's treasuries and federal agency securities, with investments in other sectors to diversify the portfolio and add some yield. The overall yield on cost on the portfolio at the end of the quarter was 1.27%, up from around 1.1% last quarter. So again, these Fed rate increases are translating to higher earnings in the portfolio. Performance, total return performance, which measures both yield and changes in market value. For the quarter, the portfolio was 0.36% compared to 0.26 for the benchmark. The benchmark is a 1 to 3 year Treasury index, and for the year 0.61 versus 0.26%. We at the end of the quarter always report the compliance with your investment policy, and the portfolio is in compliance both on a sector basis and on an issuer by issuer basis. So that's the report. Questions?
Board, any questions or discussion? What's been presented?
You've done a good job for us, and I appreciate the update.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to invest your funds.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Dr. Bass? Thank you for that report.
Good.
So that's the last information item, and we're to the regular agenda, Board.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve items A and B under curriculum and instruction.
All right, motion to approve A and B by Mr. Booth, second by Mr. Wheeler. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Opposed, state no. Vote passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on Roman numeral A to approve item C as submitted.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Wheeler to approve item C, second by Mr. Booth. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor to approve, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state no. Vote passes 4-0.
Chairman, under Roman numeral 10, Human Resources, I'll make a motion to approve items D through H as submitted.
Second.
All right, motion to approve Human Resources D through H by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Thacker. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state no. Vote passes 4-0.
Mr. Soto, if I may,
Yes.
with the ratification of our contracts, Ms. Jackson is here and would like, if that's okay with the board, to introduce her bargaining team.
Sure, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's let the chairman make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what, that was item F, I believe, right? E and
Items
F?
E and F, yes, sir.
Item E and F. You know, a lot of hard work, it took a lot of hard work to get us here, and, you know, we just moved right past it quite quickly. Thank you, Dr. Pace, for slowing us down, and Ms. Jackson, please make your statements. We're all very, very pleased with the work you've done.
First of all, thank you for the ratification of the contracts. It was a very difficult year for all of us concerned. But I'd like to recognize my two teams that work especially hard and met probably 4 to 5 times a month. The teacher bargaining team, and guys, stand up when I call your name, please. Lara Allen is our chief negotiator. He is stepping down from that position. You can tell it was a bad year. The dreads are gone. Edna LeCount, who's also retiring, so she is leaving the bargaining team. Jessica Priester. Michelle Vanderlee is leaving the bargaining team because she's retiring in September. Lori Swaby, who is now going to become our chief negotiator. Karen Pruitt, and Greg Garris and Paul Klauman couldn't be with us tonight. So this is our teacher bargaining team, and I'd like to publicly thank them for everything that they did this year and all the hours that they put in. Our ESP bargaining team, thank you, you can sit down. Barb Gleason is our chief negotiator, and Barb is here this evening. The rest of our team had prior commitments, but Shirley Groff, Hector Acosta, Elaine Weaver, Michelle Vanderlee, Myra Scamra, Michelle Vanderlee, and Ann Calandrino, who is our new employee who is stepping into the position.
Double time on that committee.
Yes, she does. So I'd like to thank them again, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was on the Human Resources. The next item up will be Business and Finance Board.
Move for approval of items I.
Second.
All right, it's a motion to approve I and J by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Booth. Board, any discussion on any of these? No discussion? One of them has to do with football fields. Sure. All right.
Discuss how good the Bulldogs are going to be this year.
Yeah, that's, it's related somehow.
So, Mr. Fancher left, we could have.
I know, he's not
here.
Well, without any discussion, then we're going to take a vote. Board, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Vote passes 4-0.
Make a motion to approve items K through P only.
Second.
K through what, P?
P.
And pulling Q?
Not Q.
Not Q, okay.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Thacker on the facilities.
Discussion.
K through P, with a second by Mr. Wheeler, and discussion by Mr. Booth.
I should have said it in positive comments, but I hope you appreciate that I was kind of saved that time for Coach Mack today. But I wanted to thank Ms. Blake, Mr. Lockhart. I actually gave him doctor status, I think, at the meeting. But we, and Chairman Soto was there as well. We had a meeting with the folks that live along the Boggy Creek corridor. And you know, a lot of times when you put out a community meeting, a lot of folks don't come. But I think we had about 40 folks there, engaged folks. We were able to present a lot of information, dispel some myths about how the whole redistricting process takes place. So I wanted to thank Dr. Pace, the staff. They did a fantastic job of presenting the information to that group, and thank Mr. Soto also. He did a great job, and we, you know, really that's how a community meeting is supposed to go. Folks had some opinions, some misconceptions, and we were able to kind of dispel those. And so thank you again. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to put it there, but it kind of fit with facilities. So it doesn't have anything to do with anything we're voting on. But thank you.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Booth. I totally concur.
Am I allowed to do that, Mr. Chairman?
I was.
Tanya, can you get that in the
The
minute?
minute's a little different, but
Ricky talked about Turnberry, whatever.
No, that did go very well.
It was under facilities. I added it.
So, Board, we have a motion pending to approve K through P. All those, without any further discussion, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Vote passes 4-0. Leaves us with item Q.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve item Q as submitted.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion to approve item Q by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Booth, with discussion by Mr. Thacker.
I don't have any issues with the motion, other than I need to abstain from voting on item Q. My wife represents the developer, who is party to this agreement, so I will be abstaining from voting, and I have.
And I like to think of it not
Or
as your
maybe.
wife, but as your much better half.
She's all the above.
Very well. All right, so with that in consideration.
And I want to discuss this one as well, if I can.
Oh, you,
Well, I mean, doing something for the relocation of the bus interest, I want to thank Mr. Clinch, because I know all of us, and probably Mr. Thacker and myself probably the most, because that's kind of our area over there. But you know, that traffic is terrible there, and we have we'd love to get the money from the state to widen that road. I'm sure everybody in the county would, and it's always coming 5 years from now, right? But we've taken steps, the county's taken steps, and our group has worked really well, and I think they should be commended for doing that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I can't vote on the item, but this is a pretty good model. Actually, the developer who is developing the property
Correct.
across the street is paying to move a lift station, is paying for that bus loop,
Yep.
paying to change the front of Neptune Middle School to where it'll match their entrance, which you could imagine they've got big development. It's going to be a fairly nice entrance as opposed to chain link fence.
great.
So it's a good partnership, I think, with
Get
that
those
developer.
buses off Neptune.
And gets a bus. I came through there last week, and it took me in the
Yep.
morning coming from St. Cloud, and it was 15 minutes to get from the police station to the school.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
all right.
Thank you guys for all your work on that.
Thanks for the disclosure. Board, that's.
Mr. Chairman,
wait,
Dr. Pace had something, I thought. No.
I was just going to add, actually, before Mr. Thacker did, that this is a tremendous example of our relationships with developers that are good for everybody, because they have worked very closely with staff, with us, to make that happen in a way that fits our capital budget, but also the needs of the community and the needs of their development.
That's great. Welcome. And Mr. Wheeler.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to point out Dr. Pace had some.
Thanks for putting that out. And so, Board, we do have a motion pending to approve item Q. What say you?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, all those opposed, no. Hearing none, vote passes 3-0.
0-1.
With one abstention.
Okay.
Tie game for the last.
You got that, Tanya? You
Yep.
want me to talk about some HOA meetings, some more HOA?
Well, I can tell you about HOA meetings. I don't bother you with that stuff.
All right, but, I'll make a motion to approve item R under
Second.
community relations.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve item R by Mr. Booth, second by
No
Mr.
discussion.
Wheeler. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 4-0. We're getting to near the end of our agenda tonight's meeting. Superintendent?
I really don't have an update, but just a reminder that our graduation ceremonies do begin next week. It's going to be a busy few days, but the exciting time of the year. And also, Board, I did want to just have you pause for a moment and think about the workshop that we currently have scheduled for June the 6th before our June 6th meeting. It is specifically designed for Sarah to do her initial presentation of our operational and capital budget for the 17-18 school year.
We may not know.
We may not have a lot of information. So if, with the board's pleasure, I will kind of watch this over the next week or so and potentially come back with a request to move that out. I hate for staff to duplicate efforts in preparing a budget based on what we now know now, when it might change tremendously.
Right, there's no point in presenting something that you know if it's accurate.
Thank you.
Good point by Mr. Weiner. The attorney report.
Yes, 2 items. Members of the board, you approved an item tonight, 10D, and I just want the record to reflect that is interpreted as you have authorized me to notify the Department of Administrative Hearings that a request has been made for a hearing. I just wanted to have it clear in the record. Second thing, I'd be remiss, but I really want to publicly congratulate and thank Dr. Pace and Sarah Graber and the team. You know, there were a lot of thank yous a few minutes ago, but I can tell you they never took the eye off the ball of helping the teachers and staff in collective bargaining. And I think we really reached agreement because of their leadership. Dr. Pace, thank you. It was a pleasure to watch from my seat.
And I want to just share a comment relative to that I personally, so I've made more than one comment about being on this board a long time, I appreciate the preparation that went into the executive sessions with the information that you presented, with, you know, with the recommendations you made, with an eye on what was best for students. And I genuinely appreciate you coming in, with, you know, prepared, and again, with students in mind with every decision. That is greatly appreciated by me.
Thank you.
So, superintendent's update. Any unfinished business, board? Any new business? Any final comments before we adjourn?
Good meeting.
We're adjourned.
Okay.
Yep. Good job.
Okay.